Look at all of this stuff falling from the sky. I don't know if you can see it. It's raining debris. This is a large, violent tornado. There's all sorts of stuff falling out of the sky. The road is getting littered right now with debris from houses. This is houses all over the road. There's a floor mat of a car. This is bad. It's tearing something up. Oh, Jesus, there's cars that have been tossed.
It is 4:15 in the afternoon on Monday, April 28th, 2014. 6,631 people in the small town of Louisville, Mississippi are about to experience something that will change their lives forever. In the next 20 minutes, 125 people trapped inside their only hospital will face death. 646 structures will be destroyed. 10 people will lose their lives. This is the story of April 28th, 2014, the day an EF4 tornado, with winds reaching 185 miles per hour. Our story begins not on April 28th, 2014, but 5 days earlier. April 23rd, 2014. Meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, are staring at computer models showing something they've seen before, something they fear. A massive upper-level trough is predicted to push across the plains. Combined with deep moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and an unusually strong jet stream, it is creating what forecasters call a loaded gun. It is everything needed for a major tornado outbreak. By April 26, 2014, still 2 days before the tornado, the Storm Prediction Center issues a moderate risk outlook stretching from southwestern Kentucky to central Mississippi. They note all modes of severe weather are possible, including strong tornadoes. But here's the thing about a Monday in late April in Mississippi. People are working, kids are in school, farmers are tending fields. The last thing anyone is thinking about is taking shelter. April 27th, 2014 passes. The atmosphere continues loading. Then comes Monday morning, April 28th, 2014. The morning dawns humid and sticky, the kind of oppressive heat that makes your shirt cling to your back. At the National Weather Service office in Jackson, meteorologists launch a weather balloon at sunrise. What comes back makes their blood run cold. The atmosphere is what they call uncapped. There is nothing stopping storms from exploding. Surface dew points are in the mid to upper 60s. An outflow boundary from overnight storms has created a convergence zone. The convective available potential energy values, the energy available for storms, are around 2,000 joules per kilogram. To put that in perspective, anything over 1,500 is considered extremely dangerous. The storm relative helicity is between 200 and 300. That is the spin in the atmosphere. The bulk wind shear is 50 to 60 knots. And here's the kicker. The jet stream at 18,000 feet is screaming at 80 knots. Every single ingredient for violent tornadoes is in place. At 12:40 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the Storm Prediction Center takes an unusual step. They issue a particularly dangerous situation. Tornado Watch, the most serious designation they have for most of Mississippi. The watch text warns of strong to violent tornadoes and tornado damage paths exceeding 1 mile in length. At 2:19 p.m., they do something even more rare. They upgrade central Mississippi to a high risk with a 30% hatched tornado probability. This means there is a 30% chance of a violent tornado within 25 miles of any point. In the world of severe weather forecasting, this is the highest alarm they can sound. In Louisville, Mississippi, a town of 6,600 people nestled in Winston County, people are going about their Monday. Willie Macon is at home with his 5 grandchildren. Ruth Bennett is finishing up the day at her childcare center, only one child left to pick up. Joe Johns is in the home he built 50 years ago. Speedy Calvert is upstairs in his dream house. None of them know that in less than 2 hours, their lives will change forever. 3:49 p.m. Central Daylight Time. The Storm Prediction Center issues a mesoscale discussion. Storm chasers are already on the ground, watching discrete supercells explode northeast of Jackson. One supercell in particular catches everyone's attention. It has a pronounced hook echo on radar, a classic signature. The velocity couplet is tight and intense. 2 minutes later, at 3:51 p.m., the tornado touches down, north of Coosa in Leake County. It starts as an EF4, knocking down trees and damaging roofs. But within minutes, something changes. The tornado begins to intensify rapidly. By the time it reaches McGeetown Road, winds are exceeding 130 miles per hour. The supercell is exhibiting every textbook characteristic of a violent tornado. A debris ball signature at the base of the hook echo, extreme velocity couplets, and a perfectly organized mesocyclone. At 3:58 p.m., the National Weather Service in Jackson issues a particularly dangerous situation. Tornado warning for Winston County. This includes the town of Louisville. At 4:03 p.m., after storm chasers radio in confirmation of a large, multi-vortex tornado on the ground and moving northeast, they upgrade it to a tornado emergency. Louisville has 12 to 15 minutes. Sheriff Jason Pugh is in his truck when he sees it. Later, he told reporters that he saw it from his truck as it was coming over Lake Teococata. And that is when he realized it was heading into town, and he realized the magnitude of the tornado they were looking at. The tornado is now 3/4 of a mile wide. It is moving at 36 miles per hour, and it is about to reach its peak intensity. On Hartness Road in rural Winston County, 12 massive chicken houses belonging to Hartness Farms sit in neat rows. These are not small structures. Each one is 400 feet long and well anchored to concrete foundations. The tornado hits them at full force. All 12 chicken houses are flattened and swept completely off their foundations. The metal frames are twisted into unrecognizable shapes. 234,000 chickens die instantly. The damage here is rated Enhanced Fujita 4. Wind speeds reached 185 miles per hour. On Stanley Road, the tornado reaches its absolute maximum intensity. Well-constructed brick homes, homes that have stood for decades, are swept completely clean from their foundations. Only chimneys remain standing, like tombstones marking where families once lived. Trees are not just snapped, they are shredded and debarked, with bark blown hundreds of feet away. Vehicles are thrown and mangled beyond recognition. Radar at the National Weather Service shows something terrifying. A debris ball is lofted higher than 15,000 feet. This is a diagnostic signature of a violent tornado, one of the strongest nature can produce. The tornado continues northeast, directly toward Louisville. 4:15 p.m. The tornado enters Louisville along Highway 15 on the south side of town. It tears through the industrial corridor first. Taylor Machine Works, a major employer, takes a direct hit. Winston Plywood and Veneer, a facility that had been purchased by new owners just 30 days earlier, is completely leveled. Two massive metal industrial buildings are flattened like cardboard boxes. Then it hits Eland Avenue. Willie Macon is at home with his wife and 5 grandchildren when he hears it. He will later recall that they heard something like a train, like a big loaded train. The kids asked him, "Papa, what are we going to do?" They got their blanket and everything, and he said they were going to get somewhere. He gathers all 5 grandchildren in the bathroom. As he huddles over them, the roof rips away above his head. He heard the top when it came up. He looked up and saw really bright sun. It was shining, just a beauty. For 45 seconds, Willie Macon holds his grandchildren as winds of 175 miles per hour tear his home apart around them. When the roaring stops, they are alive. All of them. But 3 of Willie's neighbors on Eland Avenue are dead. Down the street, the tornado strikes Eland Plaza Apartments with full fury. Several apartment buildings are flattened. 2 are swept completely off their foundations, nothing left but bare concrete. 2 more lives are lost here. Joe Johns is in his home on McCullough Drive, a home he built with his own hands 50 years ago. He saw the tornado coming through his window. They ran back and got in the closet. A door fell on his leg and broke his ankle. Other than that, they were safe, but it destroyed everything that they had. When he emerges, his entire life's work is gone. Our bedroom was back here, he says. The rest was the den, and the other 2 bedrooms and the living room, all gone. His voice breaks when he talks about it. To look and see trucks, your car, just demolished, and all the work you have done over the years, everything was gone. He says he is very emotional, but he counts their blessings. Today, 10 years later, his lot is still just a concrete slab. Kenesha White Jones is with her grandmother when their house takes a direct hit. She looked out the window and saw everything get white. She got in the closet, and as soon as her grandmother closed the closet door, it seemed like a sweep. Everything in the house started hitting them in the back. When it all quit, they were out in the yard and a truck had rolled over. And if it had rolled over again, it would have been on top of them. She fractured her back. Her grandmother's house was completely destroyed. Speedy Calvert and his wife are on the 2nd floor of their dream home when the alerts start blaring. They were told that it was about to hit South Louisville. That is when he went out to look at it, but he looked north and it came through the back door. He grabs his wife and they dive into the upstairs bathroom. The next 45 seconds is something that will stick in his mind forever. When he pushes open the bathroom door, he sees sky where his ceiling should be. Because they were on the 2nd floor, the whole 2nd story was gone. He says they lost their home, but they were very blessed to be able to walk out. So many friends and people had to be dug out with debris on top of them, but they were able to open their door. But the most powerful story, the one that will define this tornado for the people of Louisville, is happening at Ruth's Child Care Center. Ruth Bennett, 53 years old, has operated Ruth's Child Care Center for years. She is known in the community as someone who treats every child like her own. This Monday afternoon, only one child remains, 4-year-old Ashtyn Mitchell, who has been in Ruth's care since infancy. When Ruth hears the tornado warning, she knows what to do. She gathers Ashtyn close. She wraps a blanket around the little girl. The tornado hits the daycare with 175 miles per hour winds. The building is wiped completely off its foundation and thrown into a neighbor's backyard. Minutes later, a firefighter hears screaming in the debris. When rescuers reach them, they find Ruth Bennett dead, still clutching Ashtyn, still shielding the child with her body. The blanket is still wrapped around the little girl. Ashtyn survives with a broken thigh bone and lacerations. Her eyes are swollen. She will need multiple surgeries, but she is alive. Her father, Willie Mitchell, rushed to the scene. He said he went inside and saw his daughter. He pointed and told the rescuers that she was his baby. She looked up and said, "Hey, Daddy!" And that moment hit him. At a memorial service days later, Ashtyn's mother, Koishina, stood before Ruth Bennett's family and thanked them. She said you can never say thank you enough. She said Ruth gave the ultimate sacrifice and protected Ashtyn to the end. She said the 2 reasons she has her baby are God and Ruth Bennett. Ruth Bennett died a hero. So did Dora Triplett, 64, who threw herself over her grandson on Eland Avenue as their home was swept away. The grandson survived. Dora did not. Also killed were Terry Tucker, 31, her boyfriend Sean Fowler, 44, and her son Tyler Tucker, 8. They were found half a mile from their destroyed home, thrown into a wooded area of splintered pine trees. Leonard Carter, 38, and Gregory Jernigan, 60, died at Eland Plaza Apartments. Catherine Ferguson, 55, died in the rural Plattsburgh community. Sarah Massey, 85, was the oldest victim. And Jerry Duck Carter, 61, was injured on Eland Avenue and later died at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. 10 lives, 10 families, 10 futures ended in 45 seconds. But the tornado isn't done. Winston Medical Center sits directly in the tornado's path. It is a 60-year-old building, the only hospital in Winston County. When the tornado struck, 125 patients, visitors, and staff were inside. Senefe Yates had just arrived to check on her grandfather when Winston County Sheriff's deputies burst through the doors. They pushed everyone against the wall, gave pillows, and ordered them to get down and not get up. Paula Harris, the emergency room supervisor, was working a full emergency room when a deputy came in and yelled that it was coming. She could hear the roof being torn off, and she heard things hitting the hospital. Within 15 seconds, the building was destroyed. Multiple walls collapsed. The facade tore away, and the roof was ripped off in sections. A gas leak created fears of explosion. Dr. Michael Henry, the emergency room physician, saw a patient on a stretcher begin rolling toward the suction of the tornado. Acting on pure instinct, he lunged forward and pulled the stretcher and patient into a safe area, saving their life. Extension Agent Jim McAdory was in the center of the building when it hit. He said it felt like an electric shock hit the hospital. It just shook the whole building. Dr. Michael Ard sheltered between two closets as the walls came down around him. He said the roof came down over them, and it held where they were. Later, he would remember specific faces from that night. One little girl had a broken femur and a lacerated liver. Another very tiny baby had blue eyes and lacerations around her head. He remembered specific people and faces, though he did not know all their names. Here is the miracle. Not a single person died. 125 people were inside a building being torn apart by 165 miles per hour winds, and not one death occurred. Only one minor injury was reported. But the hospital is destroyed, and the emergency is just beginning. 4:47 p.m. After 57 minutes on the ground, after traveling 34.38 miles, after destroying 646 structures, the tornado finally lifts northeast of Louisville. 10 people are dead, 84 are injured. Damage will exceed $126 million. But the people of Louisville do not know this yet. All they know is that their town has been erased. Despite their destroyed facility, the staff at Winston Medical Center does something extraordinary. They treat over 100 tornado victims that night. With no roof, with walls collapsed, with debris everywhere, doctors and nurses work by flashlight and emergency generators. Dr. Ard will never forget it. We had people coming in from the tornado. Blood everywhere. Kids crying. Parents screaming. And we just did what we had to do. By 2 a.m., all patients and nursing home residents have been evacuated safely. The hospital would operate from FEMA tent units for the next 11 months. The response is immediate and overwhelming. The Salvation Army deploys 18 mobile feeding units. Operation BBQ Relief serves 11,060 meals over 5 days. Samaritan's Purse sets up at the Louisville Coliseum, housing 100 volunteers. Charlie and Shannon Smith had lost their own home completely. Yet within hours of the tornado, they brought school buses to the hospital to help evacuate nursing home residents. Fran Misso, the director of nurses, watches in amazement. I was amazed at their strength to continue to work as hard as they did to help others amidst their own hurts and devastation. 100 National Guard troops are deployed within 24 hours. President Obama declares a major disaster on April 30th. But perhaps the most meaningful gesture comes from Norman, Oklahoma. The chief executive officer of Norman Regional Health System, David Whitaker, had watched his own hospital damaged by the Moore tornado just a year earlier. He travels to Louisville with a check for $48,000 for employee relief. 100% goes to Winston Medical Center workers. You don't go through something like this without being marked for life, Whitaker tells them. The key to success is how we read that mark and use it to become better afterwards. His advice is simple. Take time to laugh and cry with each other. Mayor Will Hill stands in the rubble of his town and makes a promise. Louisville will rebuild. But he has no illusions about how long it will take. At the 1-year anniversary, he is blunt. I don't look at the 1-year anniversary as a milestone of achievement or success. I feel like we're just getting started. He's right. The federal government commits $43.5 million in grants. Mississippi's legislature approves $17 million for disaster recovery. FEMA provides $10.8 million for medical care restoration. But money cannot fix everything. Winston Strong, a volunteer organization formed by local businesses and churches, becomes the backbone of housing recovery. Led by Reverend Mike Dowd, the group coordinates with 80 Mennonite volunteers from across the country. By the first anniversary, they had rebuilt 17 homes. Eventually, they would rebuild 23 homes and repair over 60 others. Dowd explains that you have to help people through these times, not just the physical rebuilding, but also the emotional rebuilding. We all have to get used to a new normal. The hospital's recovery becomes symbolic of Louisville's resurrection. After demolishing the destroyed 60-year-old building, a 90-day project, construction begins on a $55 million replacement facility. 3 years to the day after the tornado, April 28, 2017, over 1,000 people gather for the ribbon cutting of the new Winston Medical Center. CEO Paul Black stands before the crowd and says the tornado will always be a part of our past, but our future has never looked brighter. Winston Plywood and Veneer's new owners had purchased the facility just 30 days before the tornado destroyed it. They had every reason to rebuild elsewhere, every financial incentive to walk away. They did not. The company commits to Louisville, breaking ground on a new state-of-the-art facility. Today, the plant continues operating and expanding. But 10 years later, the trauma persists in ways both visible and hidden. Jim McAdory, the extension agent who survived inside the hospital, has interviewed many survivors over the years. He says it is interesting because some people do not want to talk about the tornado. And then there are some people who do not mind talking about the tornado. It is an emotional thing for some people because it took some people's lives. And it almost took some people's lives that maybe do not want to go back into that mindset again. Firefighter Chris Young sees it every time severe weather approaches. He says the city has a safe room now. It is kind of disheartening to see, but sometimes we open the safe room and we have some there when the doors open because they are terrified they are going to get hit again. In 2019, Louisville opens the Community Safe Room, a $3.1 million FEMA-rated monolithic dome structure capable of protecting 2,218 people from an EF4 tornado. The 127-foot diameter facility stands as Louisville's most visible commitment to never being caught unprepared again. Fire Chief Robert Hutto was off duty, standing on his front porch when he watched the storm cross the south side of town. He says immediately, everything changes. Everything stops. And it is like, okay, what next? He pauses. He says, you have got to mourn. But in that moment, we still had to do our job. We still had to respond and do the best we could. In December 2021, an EF4 tornado devastates Mayfield, Kentucky. Mayor Kathy Onan finds herself leading a community through the same nightmare Louisville had faced 7 years earlier. She reaches out to mayors across tornado-affected communities. The connection with Will Hill is immediate. She says of all the mayors we talked to, we just felt more connected to Mayor Hill. In 2023, she visits Louisville to see the recovery firsthand. What she finds gives her hope. She says instilling that patience, we are working at it. We are working hard. We have seen a place so beautiful, but it is 9 years removed. So this is what we hope we see in 9 years in Mayfield. Winston Strong, the volunteer organization, expands its mission to help other Mississippi communities hit by 2023 tornadoes, paying forward the help Louisville once received. April 28th, 2024, 10 years to the day. Louisville declares an official day of remembrance. At 10 o'clock in the morning, church bells ring across the city, and fire engines sound their horns 10 times, marking 10 years and 10 lives lost. First responders gather downtown to lay flower arrangements at the monument on Main Street. The local radio station opens its lines for survivors to call in and share their stories. Mayor Will Hill addresses his community. He says he never wants the city to lose sight and never wants anyone to forget. He calls the tornado a defining moment in life and in the history of the city. He lists the moments that define a life, from graduations and marriages to the birth of a child, a new job, or a relocation. He says April 28th, 2014 will always be a point of history in Louisville, Mississippi, and Winston County. Some driveways in Louisville still lead to empty foundations, lots that were never rebuilt, families that never returned. The 50-year-old home belonging to Joe Johns on McCullough Drive is still just a slab. Winston Medical Center stands modern and gleaming. The plywood plant hums with production. The community safe room waits, ready, hoping never to be needed. New homes have risen. New businesses have opened. The population has stabilized. Safe room remains a symbol of preparedness. Reverend Mike Dowd says he is proud to live in Winston County, where the community rebuilt, and that the community came back stronger than it went into the disaster. That speaks to the character of the people who live there. Mayor Hill, reflecting on the decade-long journey, offers a clear assessment. No town, no community, and no county is the same after a disaster. The only constant in life is change. A storm definitely changes a community, but you will either be better for it or the opposite. Louisville chose better. On the 1-year anniversary of Ruth Bennett's death, her son Damon Eichelberger places a wreath at the concrete steps, all that remains of his mother's daycare. It is a simple gesture, a quiet memorial, but it represents something larger. Ruth Bennett did what the people of Louisville would do in the years that followed. She gave everything to protect what mattered most. The wind still blows through Louisville, Mississippi. It always has. It always will. But now the people know something they did not know before April 28th, 2014. They know they are stronger than the wind. 10 years, 10 lives, 646 structures destroyed, $126 million in damage. But Louisville, Mississippi is still here. That is the real story of April 28th, 2014. The day a tornado tried to erase a town from the map and failed.